Hi, boys and girls. We're in Mrs. Becker's kitchen again, which means it's time for science. And this is actually part two of the experiment that we did yesterday. And we were working with something called crystallography, which is the study of how crystals are made. And remember, scientists are always trying to tell us why something happens the way that it does or why it works the way that it does. And they ask themselves a question and then they make a hypothesis, which is a guess as to what the answer for the question might be. Then they do an experiment and they watch what happens in the experiment, and that's called observe. And then at the end, they try to answer their question, and that's called drawing a conclusion. So scientists make a hypothesis, they observe, and they draw conclusions. Now, sometimes when they go through the experiment, they find that something doesn't work the way they thought that it would. And then they might try that experiment again, but change something. Well, that's kind of what happened when we did the experiment, and you're going to find this out. So, yesterday we had a cup of water, we warmed it up for 2 minutes, we put 3 tablespoons of Epsom salt in the container, and then once it was stirred and heated up and everything, Mrs. Becker put that on the hearts, and crystals were supposed to form. Well, let me show you what happened. Can you see? All right, this purple heart does have some crystals on it. They're very flat. It's a very different looking crystal. All right, this purple heart, if you look up at the top, has a little bit of crystal. And then this purple heart, if you look up again at the edge, you can see a little crystal. But guess what? Nothing happened on any of the other hearts. They're all kind of the same. All right, no crystals. No crystals even on the pipe cleaners. So Mrs. Becker thought, what should I do to make crystals look better, or to make some crystals that we can actually see? And I want you to know that before I did the experiment with you yesterday, I experimented using table salt. All right, not the same kind of salt I used when we worked together. And I did the 1 cup of water, I put 3 tablespoons of the table salt in, just like the recipe that I found told me. And let me show you what happened there. Can you see this one? Can you see some sprinkles there, some glittering things? Those are crystals. All right. And how about this one? Can you see some glittering things there? All right, those are crystals. So there were crystals that formed on these hearts, but not many, and not that you could see very well. So I thought to myself, I think I better do the experiment again. And I want you to know that I did it again. And I thought, this time I'm going to use 1 cup of water, but I'm going to use 4 or 5 tablespoons of table salt, not the Epsom salts, but the table salt. And then I want to see what happens. Well, I want to show you what happened with that. All right, I'm going to move the camera so you can see this better. Do you see all the crystals that are on this sheet? Look at those crystals. Wow. The second time around with the table salt from Mrs. Becker was so much better. There are even crystals, and I know they're really hard to see here, but there are even crystals there. And then I have some crystals that look just like this, that were made when I did it a second time around and changed something. Those are pretty cool. So I thought I would show you how to get those kinds of crystals, and then maybe you could do that at home. You still just need water, okay, and table salt, and a tablespoon, and then you should be able to do it. So first of all, I have to heat the water in the microwave for 2 minutes. So let me do that first. And if you have an adult helping you, which you should, then you could always heat the water on the stove. But I find it easier to do it in my microwave. Now we start out with cold water. And remember, everything's made of molecules. The water is made of molecules, but when the water is cold, the molecules are close together. When we warm it up, the molecules will be able to spread out farther. They'll be farther apart, and that gives us room to add salt. and we need to add enough salt to get a super saturated solution. We talked about that yesterday. I think that when we did the experiment with the Epsom salts, that Mrs. Becker didn't get a super saturated solution. If I got a more super saturated solution, then we would have crystals that would form. So let me put this one out of the way because it didn't work exactly the right way. And this one didn't work exactly the right way. So I'm going to move it out of the way. And then we'll set it up so you know what to do to make the crystals that look like these crystals do, which are super, super, super cool. Okay. All right, and you want to know how to get those crystals? Well, when we add the water and really get a supersaturated solution, and I put the water on the hearts, then we let it dry. And as the water is drying, it is cooling down, which means that the molecules in the water are now moving closer together. And the salt particles that are in the solution start coming out, and they join with other salt particles that are around them, and they make these crystals. It's complicated, and you guys will find out more about all of this when you get older, but that's kind of how the science works. So again, if we want to get the crystals like these, we have to have a super saturated solution. All right, let me get the water, and I have to be careful because this is really hot. All right, maybe some of you can see the steam coming off. Can you see the steam a little bit? I think it was easier to see yesterday. So I'm going to put tablespoons, many tablespoons. All right, so now I have one. Okay. And I'm going to put two. All right. And now did you see how that changed that? It's not clear anymore, is it? No, let me go ahead and stir because we want the salt to blend into the water, okay? So we'll let that happen. That takes a little bit of stirring. There, do you see? Now everything's getting a little clearer, which means we need to add more salt. Once it's not cloudy, we need to add more salt. Okay, so this is going to be 3. We have to keep track, don't we? Whoops, 3. All right, I want to stir again. All right. So again, if it goes all clear, then I know I need to add some more salt. It takes a while. See what happens here. I don't know. I might not have to add any more. Nope, it's clearing up, isn't it? Okay, let's do one more. See what happens. That's pretty clear. All right, so this is 4. Ooh. Stir. All right. If it stays milky after I stir, then I don't have to add any more salt. If it doesn't, I would have to add more. Okay, so far it's staying salty. I'll keep stirring a little bit to really get it going here. So that's the trick. If after you stir it, there's some salt still at the bottom, or sometimes it goes to the top, then that means you have a super saturated solution, okay? So this actually looks like it's a pretty super saturated solution, doesn't it? Still milky, and I can see some salt at the bottom. All right, so now I take the water, and let me move the salt. And I'm just using my spoon. And you know what? The spoon, we experimented with the paintbrush yesterday. I think the spoon works just as well as anything else. And I just want enough water to kind of cover it. The heart, that is. And remember, you can use whatever shape you want. Whatever season of the year, if you wanted to do a snowflake, that would be fun. And Again, I'm just making these are all covered, or making sure these are all covered. Okay, and I'm even going to take one of those hearts and put it in there. I kind of like what happens when the hearts are in here. Let this, see how I'm not going to touch it when it's hot. That's why you have to have an adult help you. You have to have a grown-up help you. And I'll put it like that. All right, now, since I have a super saturated solution, I want you to know that probably within an hour to an hour and a half, you're going to see those crystals. And what I did is I let my hearts sit just like this for like an hour and a half. And by the time that was up, then I was able to come over and take the hearts off carefully and put them on a paper towel, and I let them dry. But by that time, I could already see those crystals. Oh my goodness. So if you want to try this experiment at home, remember, use 1 cup of water, and I would add over 3 tablespoons of salt. So 4, and it depends upon how it looks. You can see my solution has a lot of crystals at the top right now. So that is a super saturated solution, and I don't have to add any more. But if it's clear, you can add a little bit more salt. So 4 tablespoons of salt maybe, and then put it over your hearts or whatever shape you're using, and then wait for about an hour and a half, and you will have some crystals. How exciting. All right, so we learned today that sometimes scientists have to do things over and they have to make changes. That's what Mrs. Becker had to do. And you know what? That's okay. That's how we learn. All right, I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.